Everyone has found themselves short of breath, whether it's exercise, hard labor, or even a scary movie. But when being out of breath becomes frequent, it may be a sign of something much more serious. In part one of Pulmonary Problems, TV6's Vicki Crystal introduces us to an Escanaba man whose life was changed forever when he fell down.
And it happened all at one time. I slipped on the ice and cracked my ribs, and it's been that way ever since.
But for Dan Lacoste, not being able to catch his breath was much more serious. Since that day 4 years ago, Dan has since found out he has several lung problems: COPD, emphysema, asthma, and acute bronchitis. He's been undergoing treatments at both OSF St. Francis in Escanaba as well as at the University of Michigan. That includes therapy 2 to 3 times a week. It's a slow process, as Dan can only walk for about 3 minutes at a time at 0.8 miles an hour before he must rest, struggling for breath.
And your shortness of breath?
Yeah, same thing, a little bit more.
Okay.
People with, especially with COPD and pulmonary diseases like this, it starts off where people feel breathless, and then they stop doing activities that make them feel that way. And then they end up doing less, and then your muscles weaken, and it's just this vicious cycle.
Dan admits part of his health problems come from his life choices.
I really didn't think about it, and I was a smoker in the past. I was an iron worker, I was a welder, a painter, a drywaller. It's just everything that's hard on your lungs.
But there's also a hidden factor that many people may not have heard of: alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency.
The body typically produces a chemical called trypsin that breaks down the connective tissues in the body. And that's a normal process, but there's also an antitrypsin that keeps it in balance. If you have a lack of the antitrypsin, the trypsin continues to break down the connective tissues in the body, especially the lung, and it produces the same effect as smoking would have on an emphysema patient.
Something that can now be screened for and treated if you have a family history of emphysema. As for Don, he's down to his last option, a possible lung transplant. But that's a long process that all starts with being accepted on the donor list and then waiting for a viable donor. Vicki Crystal, TV6 News, Escanaba.
Alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency is common in people of Scandinavian descent, so be sure to talk to your doctor if testing is needed. Coming up tomorrow in part 2, we'll take a closer look at some of the most common lung diseases in the United States.